A train leaves Dali Station in southwest China. It travels 82 miles. It arrives in Baoshan 1 hour later. Passengers check their phones. Some of them sleep. Most of them will never know that this 1 hour of travel took 14 years to build. If you own a phone, you are connected to this railway. The batteries, the magnets, the metals inside the screen. A large share comes from Western China and Myanmar. For decades, those materials moved by truck across 330 kilometers of some of the worst mountain roads on Earth. 9 hours on a good day, 0 hours when a landslide closed the road, which happened roughly 40 days every year. One narrow corridor, one of the most fragile links in the global supply chain. China decided to fix it with steel rails and tunnels, and then the mountains spoke back. The Dali-Ruili Railway crosses the Hengduan range, the place where India is slowly crashing into Asia. The Indian plate moves north 4 centimeters every year. Over a decade, the ground shifts 40 centimeters. The rock is not solid. It is fractured, folded, pressurized, and moving. 75% of this railway must be built inside that moving rock. Chinese engineers call it a subway through a mountain range. The government calls it the most difficult railway project in the world. This is why. Before the first tunnel could be drilled, the access roads had to be built. The railway route runs through terrain with no existing infrastructure, no power lines, no paved roads, no flat ground to park a truck. For every kilometer of planned tunnel, engineers first had to carve an access road up a mountainside to reach the portal location. Some portals sit at 2,400 meters above sea level, with the nearest usable road 4 hours of switchbacks below. A single excavator had to be disassembled in the valley, carried up in pieces by a convoy of 30 trucks, and rebuilt on site. Before the real project could start, a shadow project to support it had already taken 2 years. Start with one tunnel, Dazhushan, 14.4 kilometers long, cutting through a mountain that hides 6 active fault lines. Survey teams arrived in 2008. They planned for 6 years of work. The tunnel opened 12 years later. I am standing at the east portal of Dazhushan. The entrance looks calm. A concrete arch, steel rails, a breeze pulling air into the mouth. 10 meters in, the temperature climbs. 50 meters in, water seeps from the walls. 2 kilometers in 2012, the mountain released its answer: groundwater, under pressure. From a fault zone the surveys had classified as dry. Water poured into the excavation face at a rate that would fill an Olympic pool every 14 minutes. It did not stop for months. The total inflow across the project equaled 156,000 swimming pools of water drained out of one mountain by hand, pump, and pipe. A decade of work stood in water to the knees. Exposed steel rusted within hours. A 40-ton drilling rig in the lowest section was swallowed in 3 days. The mud hardened around it, and it became easier to leave it buried than extract it. It is still in the mountain today. And the mountain was not done. The Hengduan Range sits on the Himalayan earthquake zone. Engineers here face what they call the 3 highs and 4 actives: high rock stress, high temperature, high water pressure. 4 categories of active geological movement. Earthquakes large enough to feel on the surface happen every few years. Any tunnel not designed to flex with the ground will tear. On the Gaoligong Mountain Tunnel, the 34.5-kilometer giant at the western end of the railway, crews measured horizontal rock pressure at 31.22 megapascals. Translate that. Every square meter of wall carries 3,122 tons of rock trying to close the hole. That is the weight of 26 blue whales, pressing inward on every square meter of a space workers have to stand inside. The tunnel responded the way anything under that pressure responds. Walls deformed, steel arches buckled, concrete cracked before curing. In one section of the inclined shaft, the primary support failed 19 separate times. Crews installed it, sprayed concrete, advanced the face, came back to find the same 10-meter section cracked again, concrete spalling from the walls, steel frames bent into new shapes. The mountain was compressing the tunnel faster than workers could build it. How do you fix that? The answer is not clever. It is brutal. You dig a larger hole than you need. You install a sacrificial inner layer. You let it fail. You measure the deformation. You install another layer behind it. Eventually, the rock settles into equilibrium, and the last layer holds. Every meter in the worst sections was built 2 or 3 times before it stayed built. The cost of concrete alone on Gaoligong ran 3 times the original estimate. At one point, cement trucks were arriving at the portal every 4 minutes around the clock just to keep up with the sections that had to be poured a second and third time. One worker, he spent 4 years on a single 400-meter section. When he started, he was 28. When his section finally held, he was 32. That is not the tunnel. That is 400 meters of it. Temperature inside the shafts climbs past 38 degrees Celsius, the orange warning threshold for Chinese tunnel construction. Rock temperature in some zones reaches 45. In nearby tunnels, researchers measured rock surfaces at 88 degrees, hot enough to burn skin. Crews work in short rotations, wet towels, oxygen monitors, ice blocks trucked in by the ton. Industrial refrigeration units the size of shipping containers pump cooled air 15 kilometers into the tunnel through insulated ducts. And still, the air at the working face holds at 35 degrees with 90% humidity. A worker loses 2 liters of sweat per hour. Shifts cap at 4 hours underground, then 8 hours of recovery, then back in. And still, the rhythm never stops. 1 meter of finished tunnel every 11 hours in the hardest sections, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. For over 10 years, the crane operator on the inclined shaft stayed up there during his breaks. It took too long to come back down. Now the second enemy arrives: water. Not the kind that floods, the kind that cannot be stopped. Shaft number 2 descends 640 meters straight down into the mountain. That is 40 meters deeper than the Canton Tower is tall, a skyscraper hung upside down inside rock. The design's safe limit for water inflow is 10 cubic meters per hour. The measured inflow in the worst section reached 141.8 cubic meters per hour, 14 times the safe limit. Workers descended in rain boots and rain gear into what they described as a waterfall. They pumped, they injected cement, they sealed fractures under high pressure. The water found new paths. So how do you seal a mountain that is draining itself through your tunnel? You don't. You redirect it. Engineers abandoned the idea of stopping the water and redesigned the tunnel itself as a controlled drainage channel. Collection basins every 300 meters. Grouting curtains to reduce the flow, not stop it. The tunnel does not defeat the groundwater. It accepts it, measures it, and moves it out. For the life of the railway, water will flow through the mountain, around the lining, and out through drains built specifically to let it leave. The tunnel is not waterproof. The tunnel is plumbed. Now raise your eyes from the tunnels. Between them, the railway has to cross valleys, not small valleys. The Nujiang, the Lankang, rivers that have carved gorges over a kilometer deep. The only way across is a bridge. The only way to build a bridge here is to plant 2 piers on opposite cliff faces, made of the same moving rock the tunnels fight. Drilling rigs were lowered onto cliff ledges by crane. Workers hung in harnesses over 500-meter drops, marking drill points by hand. Piers went in 1 meter per day in the best weather. Then the valleys produced their own weapon: wind. The gorges funnel air at speeds above 90 kilometers per hour for months of the year. Partially completed bridge sections had to be cabled down to the cliffs to stop them swinging during construction. A 200-ton segment was held by steel cables the thickness of a man's arm, released only after the wind dropped below a measured threshold. Release it at the wrong moment and it tears free, taking part of the structure with it. And when the bridge spans were finally connected, the railway still wasn't a railway. It was a corridor. For a train to actually run through it, electrification had to follow. 330 kilometers of overhead catenary wire, strung through tunnels where the ceiling is wet, through bridges where the wind never stops, through a seismic zone where every support pylon has to flex without breaking. The catenary system alone required custom shock-absorbing mounts, because a standard, rigid mount would shatter the first time the ground moved. Even the wire above the train had to be negotiated with the mountain. 8 years into Gaoligong's construction, engineers did the math. The tunnel was halfway done. At the current rate, completion would take another decade. The project was bleeding money. A senior engineer described the conditions as rebuilding a tunnel after it had already collapsed, because in some sections, they had. Then the methods changed. Ultra-deep directional drilling. Crews drilled thin exploratory holes hundreds of meters ahead of the main face, reading the geology before they arrived at it. When a fault zone was detected, high-pressure grout was injected in advance, hardening the fracture zones before the main tunnel touched them. It did not eliminate the problems. It turned each catastrophe into a scheduled event. Alongside this, a 2,000-ton custom-built tunnel boring machine arrived on site. Crews named it Colorful Cloud No. 1. Heat shielding, pressurized cooling, reinforced cutter head for hot granite. The TBM began excavating the parallel service tunnel in 2017. For the first time, the tunnel advanced faster than the mountain could close it. The December 2027 target for the main bore came back into reach. The 2028 opening of the full railway became realistic again. A project left for dead started walking again. Here is what the rhythm of this railway has looked like for 14 years. One truck of rock leaving the Gaoligong portals every 8 minutes, around the clock. In the main tunnels combined, crews have extracted over 18 million tons of rock, enough to build a solid wall 1 meter thick from Shanghai to Beijing. Every kilogram moved out through the same hole it was cut from. And standing at the west portal now, the tunnel is almost through. When the Dali-Ruili Railway opens fully in 2028, a journey from Kunming to the Myanmar border will take 5 hours instead of 9. A passenger will sit in an air-conditioned carriage at 140 kilometers per hour. They will spend 75% of the trip inside mountains they cannot see. They will not feel the 3,122 tons of rock pressing on each square meter of wall. They will not notice the water flowing around the lining continuously, forever. They will not know that beneath their feet, the rock is still being compressed by the Indian plate, still moving, still pushing. The railway is not a conquest. A conquest means the defeated side stopped fighting. The Hengduan mountains have not stopped. The plates are still colliding. The rock is still moving. The water is still flowing. Maintenance crews will walk these tunnels every week for the next 100 years, checking for new cracks, clearing drainage, replacing concrete where the mountain has pressed back. This railway is a negotiated peace. 14 years for 133 kilometers. Another 6 years on the remaining stretch. Tunnels designed not to resist the mountain, but to bend with it, drain it, and survive inside it. This is not an engineering victory. This is something older. This is humans learning to live inside a place the planet is actively trying to reshape, and agreeing to maintain that arrangement forever, as long as the trains run. 1 hour of comfortable travel, 14 years of buried effort. And somewhere inside the Gaoligong Mountain right now, pumps are running, water is moving, and steel rails are being laid meter by meter through a mountain that never agreed to be crossed. If this story reached something in you, subscribe. The world is full of places where the engineering is not a triumph over nature. It is a conversation that never ends.